The silence was deafening. Every fork stopped midair. Every conversation died. Wine glasses froze halfway to lips. And in that moment, a young black waitress stood face to face with the most powerful woman in the room who had just asked a question that would change everything. Who hired you? But what happened next will shock you. Have you ever been questioned about whether you belong somewhere? This story exposes something we all need to talk about. Hit that like button if you've ever felt judged before you even spoke, because Maya's response is about to teach us all something unforgettable. Maya Robinson was 22 years old with dreams bigger than her circumstances. Working 2 jobs while saving every penny for college, she had her sights set on becoming a social worker, someone who could make a real difference in her community. When she landed a position at the Sterling Room, downtown's most prestigious steakhouse, Maya felt like she'd won the lottery. This wasn't just any restaurant. The Sterling Room was where million-dollar deals happened over perfectly cooked steaks. City councilors debated policy between courses. Federal judges unwound after long court days. CEOs of Fortune 500 companies treated their clients to $200 bottles of wine. Getting hired here? It was like being accepted into an exclusive club that most people could only dream of entering. Maya had beaten out dozens of applicants for this position. Her references were spotless. Her interview was flawless, and her work ethic was unmatched. She approached every table with genuine warmth, treating each customer like they were the most important person in her world. In just 1 week, she'd already received 3 handwritten compliments from satisfied diners. But Friday night was different. Friday night brought out the real elite, the people whose names appeared in business magazines and society pages. And among them was Evelyn Grant, a real estate mogul worth $50 million who could make or break careers with a single phone call. Evelyn was known throughout the city for her perfectionist standards. Some called her demanding. Others whispered that she was impossible to please. Restaurant staff had learned to brace themselves when she made reservations. She expected VIP treatment, flawless service, and had zero tolerance for anything less than perfection. As Maya moved through the dining room that evening, her confidence grew with each successful interaction. Table 7 raved about her knowledge of the wine list. The couple at Table 12 specifically requested her for their next anniversary dinner. She was hitting her stride, proving to herself and everyone watching that she belonged in this world. Then came Table 4. Evelyn Grant sat alone, her perfectly manicured fingers drumming impatiently on the white tablecloth. Her designer dress probably cost more than Maya made in 3 months. Diamond earrings caught the restaurant's ambient lighting, casting tiny rainbows across her sharp cheekbones. She was intimidating, powerful, and Maya could feel the weight of her stare from across the room. But Maya had handled difficult customers before. She straightened her shoulders, checked her appearance one final time, and approached with her signature warm smile. "Good evening, Ms. Grant. Welcome to the Sterling Room. I'm Maya, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." That's when Evelyn's expression shifted. Her eyes narrowed as they traveled from Maya's face down to her uniform and back up again. The temperature at the table seemed to drop 10 degrees. Other diners began to notice the tension, conversations quieting as they sensed something was about to happen. Drop a comment if you can feel the tension building, because what came next changed everything for everyone in that room. Evelyn's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Who hired you?" The words hung in the space between them, sharp and accusatory. Maya blinked, certain she'd misheard. But Evelyn wasn't finished. "Are you even qualified?" Each word was delivered with surgical precision, designed to wound. "Why did they pick you?" The entire restaurant seemed to inhale collectively and hold its breath. Forks stopped moving. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the kitchen noise seemed to fade, as if the universe itself was listening. Maya felt the heat of dozens of eyes turning toward their table, witnessing her humiliation in real time. The questions weren't really questions at all. They were accusations wrapped in the thin veneer of inquiry. Every person in that room understood the subtext, the ugly implication behind Evelyn's words. Maya's stomach dropped as the weight of the moment settled on her shoulders. She felt the familiar burning sensation rise up her neck, the heat that came with embarrassment, with being made to feel small, with having her worth questioned in the most public way possible. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped her order pad, fighting the urge to run or respond with the anger that was building inside her chest. Around the restaurant, reactions were immediate and telling. Some diners looked away uncomfortably, unable to witness the cruelty unfolding before them. Others stared with a morbid fascination of people watching a car accident. A few shook their heads in disgust, but said nothing. The servers who had become Maya's friends over the past week looked on with horror and helplessness. Evelyn sat back in her chair, satisfied with the chaos she created, waiting for Maya to crumble under the pressure. She'd done this before. Used her wealth and position to make people feel inferior, to remind them of their place in her world. She expected tears, stammering apologies, maybe even Maya running away in shame. But Maya had been raised by a grandmother who'd lived through the civil rights era, a woman who'd faced down much worse with nothing but her dignity and her faith. In that split second of choice, fight, flight, or something else entirely, Maya heard her grandmother's voice. Baby, when someone tries to make you small, you stand tall. When they try to take your dignity, you hold it close. Grace isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing you can be. And then Maya did something that no one expected. She looked Evelyn directly in the eyes, her voice steady and clear. I'm here because I earned the chance to be. The words carried a quiet power that seemed to shift the very air in the room. Maya didn't raise her voice. She didn't get defensive or angry. Instead, she continued with the kind of grace that transforms moments. I hope I can make your evening enjoyable. The silence that followed was different from before. This wasn't the uncomfortable quiet of witnessing cruelty. This was the hushed respect that follows something profound. Maya's response rippled to the dining room like a stone dropped in still water, creating circles of impact that touched every table. Evelyn's eyebrows shot up in surprise. This wasn't the reaction she'd expected. Where was the stammering? The tears? The satisfying collapse of another person's confidence? Instead, she found herself face to face with a young woman who had just demonstrated more class in 30 seconds than Evelyn had shown in years. At table 7, the elderly businessman who complimented Maya's wine knowledge earlier stood up. Excuse me, he said, his voice carrying across the room. I've been coming to this restaurant for 15 years, and this young lady had provided the best service I've ever received. Her professionalism is impeccable. A woman at table 9 nodded in agreement. She's been wonderful to everyone tonight. Absolutely wonderful. More voices joined in, a quiet chorus of support that seemed to build momentum with each comment. Regular customers who had witnessed Maya's genuine care and attention throughout the evening weren't going to let this moment pass without speaking up. The restaurant manager, Michael Stevens, had been watching from across the room. He'd hired Maya himself, impressed by her references, her interview, and her obvious dedication. Now, he approached the table with purpose. Ms. Grant, he said politely but firmly, Maya is one of our finest team members. She was elected from over 60 applicants because of her exceptional qualifications and character. At the Sterling Room, we pride ourselves on employing individuals who embody our core values: respect, diversity, and fairness. His message was clear, without being confrontational. Maya belonged here not because of charity or quotas, but because she'd earned her place through merit, hard work, and excellence. Hit subscribe if you believe in standing up with dignity, because Maya's story is about to inspire an entire community. What happened next transformed not just that evening, but the entire conversation about respect and dignity in their city. Other diners began approaching Maya throughout the night, quietly offering words of encouragement. The couple celebrating their anniversary at table 12 left an extra $20 with a note. Thank you for handling that with such grace. You're an inspiration. The wine connoisseur at table 7 made sure to shake her hand before leaving, telling her she had a bright future ahead of her. But perhaps most telling was what happened with the staff. Maya's co-workers, servers, busboys, kitchen staff, rallied around her with solidarity that spoke to something deeper than just workplace camaraderie. They'd all witnessed what happened, and they'd all seen how Maya chose dignity over defensiveness. Even some of the other elite diners found ways to distance themselves from Evelyn's behavior. A prominent attorney made a point of loudly praising the restaurant's commitment to excellence and diversity. A city councilwoman stopped by Maya's station to compliment her professionalism. These weren't just empty gestures. They were statements about the kind of community these people wanted to be part of. Evelyn, meanwhile, found herself increasingly isolated. Her usual table companions had declined to join her that evening after witnessing her earlier outburst. Other regulars who had previously sought her approval now seemed to view her differently. The power she'd wielded through intimidation and cruelty was beginning to feel hollow. Word of the incident spread beyond the Sterling Room's walls. In an age of social media, stories like this don't stay contained. By the next morning, Maya had become an unexpected symbol, not of victimhood, but of strength. Her response had shown an entire community what it looked like to meet hatred with dignity, cruelty with grace. Local newspapers picked up the story, but not in the way you might expect. Instead of focusing on the discrimination Maya faced, they highlighted her response and the community's reaction. Local server shows power dignity under pressure, read one headline. Grace under fire. How one woman's response united community, read another. Maya's story became a teaching moment for schools, churches, and businesses throughout the city. Her response provided a blueprint for how to handle discrimination and prejudice. Not with anger or retaliation, but with the kind of quiet strength that changes hearts and minds. The real victory wasn't that Maya kept her job, though she did, and received a promotion within 2 months. The real victory was cultural. The Sterling Room became known not just for its excellent food, but for its inclusive environment and exceptional staff. Other restaurants began examining their own hiring practices and workplace cultures. But most importantly, Maya had shown that you don't have to respond to hatred with hatred. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply refusing to let someone else's cruelty define your worth. 6 months later, Maya was still working at the Sterling Room, but now as a shift supervisor. She'd saved enough money to start college part-time, pursuing her dream of becoming a social worker. The regular customers loved her, new employees looked up to her, and she became the kind of leader who lifts others up rather than tearing them down. Evelyn Grant? She still came to the restaurant occasionally, though she was notably quieter during her visits. Some said Maya's response had given her something to think about. Others weren't so sure. But it didn't matter, because Maya had never needed Evelyn's approval or apology to know her worth. What Maya's story teaches us goes far beyond one uncomfortable evening in a fancy restaurant. It shows us that dignity is a choice we make, not something others can take from us. It demonstrates that how we respond to cruelty defines us more than the cruelty itself. And it proves that sometimes the strongest response isn't fighting back. It's standing tall and refusing to be diminished. In a world that often rewards the loudest voice or the sharpest comeback, Maya chose a different path. She chose grace. And in doing so, she didn't just handle one difficult moment. She inspired an entire community to be better. Her grandmother would have been proud. What would you have done in Maya's situation? Comment below and let me know. Share this story if someone in your life needs to hear it today. Subscribe for more stories that remind us of the power we all have to choose dignity over defeat, grace over anger, and strength over surrender. Ring that notification bell if you believe everyone deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of where they come from or what they look like. Because Maya's story isn't just about one young woman's courage. It's about the kind of community we can build when we choose to lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. Next week, I'll be sharing another incredible story about unexpected courage in the face of adversity. You won't want to miss it. Until then, remember, your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. It's defined by how you choose to respond. Stay strong, stay dignified, and I'll see you in the next story.